So it's only appropriate we have Brian Kenny from MLB Network joining us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline.
And today on MLB Network, you can watch Brian Kenny on MLB Now at 4 p.m., plus the Yankees and Red Sox on MLB Network at 6 p.m., and then MLB Network will have wall-to-wall trade deadline coverage leading up to and on July 31st.
Brian, how you doing on this Thursday?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing well. So we're going to rope you into the debate we were just having. Brian, are you for or against the one-game wild card?
I like it, actually. I'm good with it.
Good. You are now on Team Mosher, Brian. Thank you. We were basically discussing the merits of maybe having Josh likes a 3-game series because he thinks that it's more fair for a team that may just have a bad day or one start have a bad start to at least get a chance to advance. But I always feel that you got to reward the division winners. You give them that time. In the wild card, you were fortunate to make it in. You earned that backdoor way in, and that's it. You get one shot to do it.
Yeah, it's definitely more fair. I definitely felt that way initially when it was first proposed way back when, thinking, oh, this is crazy. You can't play 6 months and then you can be knocked out in one day. Mm-hmm. I'll say this, though. Now with the second wild card where you have wild card teams going in, you do two things. One, you reward the division champions. You give them a division series, a guarantee. And that's a real incentive down the stretch, as opposed to when there was only one wild card and you got a division series no matter what, because teams weren't incentivized to really win the division. It didn't matter all that much except for home field. The other thing is, just from a television point of view, an entertainment point of view, it really is a great seller. You know, I mean, it's a great event. You can't miss it.
Very compelling.
The season ends. Yeah, it is. The season ends, and suddenly all right, here's American League wild card, here's National League wild card. It's a one-shot deal. You have to watch. You can't put it off and say, well, I'll pick it up in game 2. I want to wait till the really good teams are playing. No, you have drama right away. Those two things, I think, matter a lot, and I like the system the way it is now.
I also think it could become a logistical nightmare. We were talking about if we were to have a longer series, say a 3-game series, and you had 2 wild card teams, one being the Arizona Diamondbacks, the other being the Atlanta Braves. Well, how do you work the home and road and all the travel in between? And we already have baseball sometimes stretching into November. So that's another reason for me to just keep it one game and not try to make this thing become a logistical nightmare.
Well, we had that last year. You have tie breaks.
Right.
You know, we had 2 tie breaks. If you have tie breaks, and there could have been a chance of like even more teams being involved in a 3-way tie break. You can't keep adding all these games on. I think it works. And again, I didn't think it was the best way of doing it, but now that you have 2 wild cards, you normally have good teams making it. You don't dip down too far, but hey, wild card, this is what it is. If you win your division, you get a division series. If you don't, you take your chances.
I've had 20 minutes of people breaking down my defenses. I might have to just compromise at this point. Brian Kenny joining us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline on 97.3 ESPN. Speaking of the wild card, Brian, in our backyard, the Philadelphia Phillies right now are a half game out. You know, coming out of the All-Star game, they weren't doing so well, and all of a sudden now they won 5 of their last 6 going into a pivotal series with the Atlanta Braves. You know, what is your perspective on the 54-48 Phillies? Do you feel like that is a team that is a legitimate postseason team, or do you think that their postseason chances do or die with the trade deadline?
Yeah, they could really, because of all the injuries, especially to their bullpen, they could use some help. Everybody could use some help. I mean, I hear so much about, the Yankees need to add a starting pitcher. They're doing just fine, but everybody needs something. I still think the Phillies roll out a pretty high-quality team. The pitching has faltered a lot, and they, are just decimated in their bullpen. So, but still in all, is there that much of a difference between, the Phillies and the other teams that are making the playoffs in the National League? Probably not. I think the Dodgers are the class of it, but I don't think they're that far away. And I think, could they add? Yes, everybody could add.
That's the thing, Brian. I'm looking at, you can make the argument either way for the Phillies right now. Are there a half a game out of the second wild card spot and maybe a game and a half out of even the top? But then there are 1, 2, 3. I see, 4 or 5. You want to throw Colorado in there? There's 5 teams that could easily usurp them between now and the end of the season. And with the trade deadline coming along, and I don't know if this is great for baseball but bad for individual teams, I don't know how they decide right now whether it's more advantageous to be buyers or sellers.
I think, you have to assess where each team is, on their curve. Now, the win curve and also how hard they really worked, to get to where they are. I think the Phillies pushed in so far, they made their moves. So I think that's where they're at. Unfortunately, the injuries set them back, but you can't keep pushing in every time. I think they've made their commitments, and they have to add here and there. But selling, to me, doesn't make sense. I think now it's like, hey, we're not there. I think they're from where they are, and this is different for every team, but where they are, I think they continue to push.
Interesting. One thing we talk about, Brian, I wanted your perspective on this. Is it's almost like going against the grain. Like the Yankees are a very good team this year. I don't think anybody's writing home about J.A. Happ and the kind of year he's having. Most of their starting pitchers haven't been excellent. Domingo Germán pitched well, but in general, they're out-slugging like they just did with the Twins. Maybe the Phillies should just consider adding another bat and just, they've got Aaron Nola. It's going to be really hard for them to get a good number two, whether it's Greinke, whether it's whoever they're rumored to be in on, Matthew Boyd, without overpaying. So maybe they'd try to get a bat. Bats are easier to buy than pitchers. Maybe you just try to go the Yankees route and outslug this thing and see what you can do.
That's true. If you have the openings, and you can fill them. I mean, a guy like Hunter Pence will cost you a lot less than a starting pitcher. So no, there's wisdom to that. I think though that if it's harder to get one of these package deals if you're dealing with the Tigers or if you're trying to get like Bumgarner and Will Harris out of the Giants. Those are big ticket items. That's going to cost you. But if you can get just one relief pitcher out, I think that is where you really can get the bang for your buck and where you can work the leverage, the high leverage spots that you're going to be dealing with.
Brian, you mentioned earlier about how the Dodgers are the cream of the crop in the National League. Well, the Phillies just split 2 games with them. Do you think that when you look at the Central, then, are we not giving the Cubs enough respect, or do you think the Cubs are just going to continue to be a fight for their life down the line?
Well, I've been expecting them to pull away most of the year, and it hasn't happened. So I think they get a lot of respect. I don't think they've really brought it to themselves. They really haven't earned their standing as a super team. They're only 8 games over 500. They only have a half game lead, and they could be tied up by the time the Cardinals get finished this afternoon. So they haven't. Even with the Brewers faltering and the Cardinals have had issues, they haven't been able to extend their lead. So, no, they haven't proven it as of yet. But I think I've been waiting for them most of the year. I expect them, and with a lot of the ways that their offensive players are performing, I've kind of been waiting for them to emerge as like a clear number 2 challenging the Dodgers. I think that they haven't done it. It's just a reflection of how they've performed this year.
Is there anyone in the American League, Brian, in your mind, that will challenge the Astros and Yankees to get into the ALCS? Can you see Minnesota? Can you see Cleveland? I mean, can you see Boston or Tampa really making a push, or does this look like a 2-horse race to you?
Oh, no, it's very possible. It's very possible. The Twins, you saw that it was an epic series with the Yankees that they just got through. So the Twins are high level. I wouldn't expect it. It's not the way you would bet, as they say. Mm-hmm. But look, the Red Sox could still emerge. It's still a very powerful group. The Indians, if they get all their pitchers back, will be a very different-looking team and could be difficult to deal with in the division series. So, no, it's really all probabilities. I think you're right. The Yankees and the Astros have really spread it out where they're clearly the class of the league. But in these series, in a playoff series, no, the Twins are going to break the home run record all time. They're going to and they have a good rotation. They're going to be difficult to deal with.
All right, Brian Kenny from the MLB Network. Brian, thanks for having us on, man. We will definitely catch up with you as the season goes on.
Okay. Very good, guys. Take care.
Today on MLB Network, remember, you can watch Brian Kenny on MLB Now at 4 o'clock. Plus, you got Yankees at Red Sox on the MLB Network at 6 o'clock. And then MLB Network will have wall-to-wall trade deadline coverage leading up to and on July 31st.